everybody, welcome back to a Creative Cast. We're a creative cast of people talk about creative things. I'm your host, Callie, and today I have with me...
Uh, it's Chris.
Hey, it's Chris. I'm Marshaun. Hello.
That's how you
Yeah.
introduce yourself. It is me.
Hello.
It's Chris.
I don't
Tis
know. It's
I,
such an
the
energetic
Frenchist.
introduction. I was blown away.
Yeah, it was a powerful, very powerful intro.
10 out of 10.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to my Cali Creates. Creative people. I'm your host.
I'm not-
Today I have with
Yes.
I'm not gonna lie, in the middle of the intro, I forgot what the next one
what the intro was.
Yeah!
Yeah.
I was like, that brief, half second of a pause, that was me going, oh god. Oh wait, hang on. I haven't done this in a while. I love how we keep...
Got my intro.
I forgot my own intro.
We got there. Okay.
Someday we'll have I don't know, some
Hey,
level
we can
of
open a wine
organization.
bottle. We can open a wine bottle together. We can do this.
You're right. It only took all three of us a few YouTube videos and 2 corkscrews?
Something like that, yeah.
I just go for twist opens these days.
Yes.
But anyway, we're here today to talk about silhouettes, the outline, the shape of characters and objects, and why they're important in art and like storytelling and stuff like that. That is the topic of the day.
Yes. One of our possible favorite subjects. At least I like it. I don't know.
I mean, who's that Pokemon, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, we love shapes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Who doesn't love a good shape, you know? Who doesn't love an iconic shape?
Yes. And that is what character silhouettes are all about.
Exactly. Yeah, so today we're going to be talking about silhouettes, why they're important in media, storytelling, character design specifically, because that's where a lot of this stuff comes to play, and sharing like our thoughts, our experiences, our opinions, and all that stuff. I feel like I'm repeating myself at this point, so I'm just gonna give you both the floor. Yeah.
Great. Well,
yeah, Chris, was this your suggestion?
Yes, this was my podcast idea, and I think maybe we start with just like a general like why are shapes important.
Sure.
Like before getting into specifically like what shapes mean and stuff, but like an overview of like why should you care about shapes and silhouettes.
Good call.
So yeah, I guess I'll throw it back at you guys. What do you think is like, if you had to answer the question, why should I care about the shape of my character? What might you say?
Marshaun, would you like to take the lead on this one?
Yeah, he threw it at us, and I will catch this. What?
As a fastball.
No, what was the question? You want me to tell you what I would answer, as if the question were like why would I care about the shape of my character?
Yeah, like picture like, I don't know, like a small young little artist child comes up to you and is like, why do I need to care about the shape of this character? I just want to draw them however I want. And then you were like, no, no, as a pro artist, sir, I will tell you why shapes are important.
Okay. Shapes are important for identification, I'd say. Um, we're talking about silhouettes, so I'll try to just talk about shapes and not three-dimensional forms because that's going somewhere else. Um, but I would say we need shape, like I said, shapes for identification. Like the head is generally speaking an oval, and like the torso can be built up with rectangles. Um, those things create structure so that your drawing doesn't, kind of flop all over the place. If you want things to have balance, if you want your figures to look like they're standing on something or jumping through the air, or doing all sorts of things, um, you build structure off of gesture. And the best way to build structure on top of like gesture, which is like loose lines and motion, uh, structure comes from shapes and then forms. You you identify what shapes you want to use for different body parts, like a teardrop shape for the shoulder, uh, like I said, rectangles for the chest or trapezoids for the chest, rectangles for like the general shape of the chest. I mean the rib cage. Sorry. um, and all of that just helps you make it a lot easier. So every time you have to draw a person, you know what shapes to go to, and you can create that simple structure. So your drawings are neat and readable.
Yeah, that was perfect. Ding, ding, ding. uh,
Thanks.
yeah. I think you hit the nail on the head of like readability, shapes and silhouettes. Uh,
Mm.
like having a quick read on your character is really important. Um, especially especially in games, I find because like if you're playing a game like Overwatch or something where you have a game where you need to like have fast reactions or it's like really uh like fast paced, you need to be able to like quickly look at something and be able to identify it.
Hmm.
Like I don't know if you're fighting against a Reinhardt and you need to look over and determine whether it's a Reinhardt or a Winston or I don't know other characters. Uh,
Tracer.
that yeah yeah. There's a shape difference right there.
Yeah.
Think about like all the tanks in the game versus a tiny little character like Tracer or Lucio or something.
Yeah. And jumping off of that, like one of the reasons that like I think silhouettes are really important is because of how they can help like convey a story. Um it's a like um it helps tell you like what the character's part in the story is going to be, like in terms of action wise, but also in terms of like storytelling. Like round characters tend to be very like nice and soft. Square characters are very rough. For great examples of that, you can look at Inside Out. The creators of the different like working with the different emotions, they wanted to break them down to like very specific shapes. Anger is a square, and you can see this even more specifically in the scene where in the like abstract thought chamber thing where they actually get reduced to their basic shapes. Sadness becomes like a teardrop and joy becomes a star, like the most basic shapes. And as you can as you notice that you can see that throughout the movie that each of the characters is very much based on like a basic shape like that, and you can use that to help distinguish a character's role in a story. And you can also use that to help subvert expectations in a story, like having like if you want to reveal a character to be like evil or something, you can make them look very like you can use rounder shapes to kind of make the viewer feel like like um lower their expectations and be like, oh, oh man, this character is probably really nice and stuff like that. You can use I won't get into like colors and stuff like that, but if you base a character off of like circles, it's just like, oh yeah, this character is really nice and stuff. So when it turns out that they're actually like evil and stuff, it can help get the viewer off guard.
Yeah.
I think that the category evil and stuff should be like in every like character design book. You've got the good guy, you've got the femme fatale, you've got evil and stuff.
Got evil mad.
I'm sorry, Chris, you were saying?
I was just what you were saying, Callie. It just made me think of like a puffer fish. Like they're round to start, but then they get all spiky when they get mad.
That's
Oh yeah, that's a crazy subversion. That's
yeah.
nature subverting me.
that is nature subverting, leading you into a false sense of security.
Or like a hedgehog. They're squishy and round to start, but then you piss them off and well, I guess
And
it's
the quills come up.
do a hedgehog? Yeah. Or is that porcupine?
They both have quills.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hedgehogs, I think, are smaller. But
yeah.
they're essentially the same animal.
Yeah, I've seen so many videos of like cute hedgehogs that it wasn't until like I saw one that got like really defensive that I realized like, oh yeah, these things can spike up real big.
Yeah.
Real poopy. These are real poopy hours.
Yeah, that's something I wanted to jump into was the idea of like the power of the round shape and to like communicate cuteness.
Oh, right. May I add something to that? That will support that idea? It was based off of what Carolyn was saying about the square. Sorry I didn't bring it up earlier. Anger, I think you said the character being square and having the hard edges. That works because he's like solid, you know, he's got a solid shape, he's got hard edges, he's not a bad character, but he's very rigid in his thought pattern and in his like stuck in his ways kind of character. That's kind of why they made him older. But the square can be used in many different ways, not just to make those types of characters. SpongeBob is a really good example of the other side of that, where obviously square, well, technically a rectangular prism, but whatever, is square. But like you were just about to say, Chris, he's a square with rounded edges, and you were just working on a SpongeBob game, so like you're used to looking at him. He's got rounded edges. He tapers a little bit, like he's usually wide to thin a little bit, where the waist comes down. They give him a little dynamicism. Even though typically if you're looking at him straight on, I think he's pretty much just the square. But the point is they have those, he's not just a square, he's a square with like these bumpy edges to make him look more like a sponge, to give him those rounded, happy, bubbly kind of bumps. Even though he's a square, you can still tell that he's kind of squishy, kind of huggable, kind of lovable. That's an interesting way to use shapes too.
I think what helps sell SpongeBob's like softness is that like he is a square, you're right, but he is complemented by a bunch of circles. Like his eyes are super round, his shoes they're round on the tips, and he's also got like all the holes in his sponge. So like he's a square, but he's a bright square covered in circles.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. The one thing I learned and took note on working on like SpongeBob was like he's rectangular, but all of the edges of the rectangle are curved in some way. Like his back like slightly arcs, like kind of like upward towards the like front. So
right.
He's like a rectangle, but like he's like an approachable rectangle.
he's a warped rectangle.
He's a nice rectangle.
Like you'd rather talk to SpongeBob than Anger.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Because like Anger again is more like a perfect square, like rigid, and the idea of rigidity. Whereas SpongeBob is like you took a block, like an an ice cream sandwich shape and then slightly twisted it and just slightly bent it ever so slightly, and that's
Yeah.
SpongeBob.
Yeah. Yeah, normally rectangle things are like tough, strong, stable.
hmm Like the Earth Kingdom, like they use a lot of squares as well in that, like
Oh
that
yeah.
whole
Oh
thing
yeah.
in Avatar.
Yeah, not just
Yeah.
in like their clothing
It's literally
designs.
their symbol.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It works in like their clothing designs. Like if you notice, their clothes are a lot more like blockier in shapes than like the Water Tribe. The Water Tribe has like a lot more like flowy sort of garments, like bulky in some ways, but that's just because they're in the North and South Pole, you know. But
Mm.
also in like the silhouettes in the way that the characters carry themselves. Like earthbending moves are always very like rigid and hard, and Water Tribe moves, like waterbending moves, sorry, waterbending moves are always very flowy. They're very water inspired, or tai chi, which helps reflect and go back to what kind of element it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like a lot of like Earth is pretty often depicted with like hard edges. I'm thinking like Pokemon, like
Yeah.
uh rock type and earth type are both usually like rectangular, or I think rock is actually like a hexagon. But like
Yeah, because think about Onyx.
yeah,
It looks like a bunch of like eight-sided die stuck together.
yeah, like if Onyx was like a round squiggly shape, that wouldn't make any sense.
Yeah. By giving Onyx like the hard edges, it kind of sells that like this isn't a water type Pokemon. This is a rock type Pokemon. He's made of stone.
It's the difference between him and Gyarados.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a great comparison.
Rock serpent versus water serpent.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you can tell the big differences in silhouette. Like you were making the joke earlier, like the who's that Pokemon game? Like if you look at the silhouette of Onyx and the silhouette um of Gyarados, you'd see that Gyarados has a lot of like these flowy like bits, like the what do you call them? The tassels on the face, I guess whiskers, kind of like catfish. And they have
Yeah.
whiskers, they have fins kind of sticking out. They have things that very much allude to being a water type thing. They have, and of course the fins and everything have like a little wave to them. They have like literally the shape of a wave, or like moving around like a worm or a serpent to kind of counteract the whole body moving like a serpent and being like an S curve or something. Whereas Onyx is just the worm shape, but every section of him is so clearly defined and has so many edges. But it's very, very simple and very, very like you know that if you took the silhouette thing off and like looked at this thing, it's most likely just gray. It's boring. And that's
Yeah.
exactly what he is. It's gray. Sorry if I slandered anyone's favorite Pokemon.
Onyx is the worst. No.
I do not think that.
I like Onyx.
Onyx is great. I was joking. Steelix is kind of weird. Steelix has a weird face.
Steelix, I don't know. I don't want to hate on Steelix because Steelix has never done anything wrong to me personally, but will always be partial to Onyx because Onyx is
Steelix looks
also
like a swamp.
Steelix does look like a thwomp.
It's true.
Yeah.
Talk about a rectangle. A
Let's
spiky rectangle.
let's make this even more rock like.
I
There's
really
too many
want a Felix to show up in a Mario game. I'm sorry.
I'm just imagining like playing Mario Kart and all of a sudden a Steelix comes out of nowhere and starts chasing you down the track.
Yeah, like I wonder if they just snuck one in the game. Would anyone really notice? Just like in a field of thwomps, they just drop a Steelix.
I feel like that would be a really fun Mario Kart level, getting like chased by a Steelix.
No, that's like a Nintendo Where's Waldo. Like,
Yeah.
that's a book. That's a book idea. We can make that. Don't steal our ideas.
My OCD.
Honestly-
It's $1 million idea. Don't take that.
Honestly, if they made like a Mario Kart DLC that was just like Pokemon themed, that'd be amazing.
That would be pretty cool. I was watching, because I'm a nerd like this, I was watching some of the old Pokemon movies recently, and Pokemon movie Heroes starts with like this cool water race where like the trainers are in these neat little like wave board Pokeball shaped thingies, and they're using water Pokemon to drag them around this Venice like city. And I'm like, oh my god, that looks like so much fun. I would love to do that. Like, ah!
Yeah, they should make a game like that. Pokemon Racing.
Ah, that'd be so cool. I would love that so much.
It's so fun. It's so crazy.
Jumping
But
back to
yeah, back on topic. So silhouettes.
I will jump back to Gyarados because he is a interesting example because while he is round and curvy to suggest like water, he's also very pointy. So he's kind of like a hybrid situation.
Well,
where he's
sorry.
no good.
I was gonna say like it's the fins. The fins work. I feel like they work double time as like being pointy to kind of give it off that whole like, and also I think he's like a little spiky around his face, like kind of gives off that whole like, hey, little dangerous, like expect some danger here, but also like the roundness helps sell the whole like water water part. God, I'm sorry, I'm having such a hard time with words right now.
So am I.
Yeah, the rounder parts of Gyarados definitely sell that it's a water type Pokemon, but obviously like Gyarados has a reputation of being dangerous and very powerful. So complementing,
Antagonistic, definitely.
huh?
Antagonistic, definitely.
Oh, for sure. Like I remember like Gyarados was always I don't know if it's the same nowadays, but like when I was younger, anytime Gyarados showed up in like the anime or anything, it was always treated with like a level of like fear and like revelry. Like this is this very big powerful Pokemon you do not mess with. You treat with respect, and that is that. And you pray to whatever god will listen that you survive. So complementing so keeping the soft edges of water type is important because it's a water type Pokemon, but those sharp edges help sell the fact that like this is not a Pokemon you want to mess with. And also like size, but that's a little hard to portray in certain with like silhouettes alone.
Yeah. The idea of like something being spiky or like having triangles, I feel like generally makes it lean more like evil, hostile.
Right.
Maybe.
Mm-hmm. Generally speaking, when it comes to a sharp point, definitely.
It's yeah, typically, but not always, because like I said, Joy from Inside Out, her thing is a star, and now to be fair, she can be a pushy, a very, but it's mostly to showcase energy. But I guess it works both ways with like showing that how she can be a bit abrasive sometimes.
I feel like the star itself is kind of its own solidification. I feel like it's its own classification. Like if we're talking about sharp edges and spikes, as in like long pointy triangles, that's one thing. But if we're talking about a star is a shape. Like it's its own shape. Like a heart. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay, you're right.
Because like I think you're absolutely right. Stars do represent energy and light and all these other like very bright things. But if we're talking about like needle pointy, like spindly, kind of creepy, spikes and points, like gothic architecture or something like that, then I feel like that kind of triangle pointy kind of thing usually lends itself towards evil or intimidated.
No, I think you definitely have a point there, because like a lot of villains, especially in like old Disney movies, are based on like triangles and stuff like that. Like if you think about the old Maleficent in like the original Sleeping Beauty, her face is very triangular. Same with the Snow White, the evil enchantress in there. Also very like triangle face. Huh?
Isn't that Maleficent, or am I wrong?
I mentioned
Isn't Maleficent the witch? Isn't that the witch? No, I get Sleeping Beauty and Snow White mixed up. Never mind.
Yeah, I don't remember if I think she's just like the evil queen or the evil
Yeah,
enchantress in Snow White. I don't remember if she actually has a name.
I think
Can
Google
she
is
sing
saying
evil?
evil queen.
I knew you were gonna start singing that the second I said enchantress.
Sorry, think about my little
No, it's
pony.
not. It's not a.
Think about ponies.
It's not a bad thing. It was more like a game to see how long until you started singing.
She's an evil enchantress.
But yeah. So, oh God, words. Words are. I don't know why words are hard. But yeah, a lot of
Because
like
we have
villains.
ADHD and it's hard to stay focused.
Huh?
Because we have ADHD and it's hard to stay focused, and I literally just derailed your thought process again. I'm sorry.
No, you're totally fine. It's all good. I
That's the
was gonna
point.
bring up Bowser. He is covered in triangles with all of his spikes everywhere, and also his
Yeah,
hair is
true.
very spiky.
True.
Mhm.
Lots of triangles, lots of ouchies if you touch them.
Oh,
Big
I
ouchie.
kind of want to do something. Can we like all agree to Google Bowser right now? Because I
Yeah.
googled Gyarados and I'm looking at Gyarados, but I want to look at Bowser.
Yeah, we can do that.
And the reason, and this is a fun game, a game if you want to call it, that everybody can do. Like literally, just the first page of Google images Bowser. Because like his character design has a lot of evolution, I think. Because they're like in the beginning, he was, I feel like he was a lot more the spiky that was meant to look evil, and be like intimidating and imposing, and that's still what he is. But as he's become more of his own character and occasionally gotten speaking roles and been like become more lovable, I feel like he's gotten a little more round in a lot of ways. And maybe people will disagree with that. Maybe you guys see something totally different. But I feel like in his evolution, they've found ways to make him rounder, while also still maintaining the I'm still the bad guy look. And I think they've done it perfectly. Because like, look at his face, look at his muzzle. His muzzle is a bunch of round shapes. His
Hmm.
body is round, like the turtle shell is round, his body is round. But the end of his round feet and hands, he's got the tiny little claws, which are all triangles, obviously, and then he's got the spikes on his back. But the spikes on his back are kind of rounded in a lot of cases, not all iterations, but they're rounded.
Hmm.
His horns are rounded. They even have curves on them, like they're curved specifically, and then his hair also curves in the opposite direction. Um, so it's just interesting. Sorry, you were gonna say?
Um. Actually, on that note, I mean, I don't know. I just on like a quick Google, not having actually done like hard research on this, just browsing around, browsing around.
Just
um,
bouncing
Just browsing
around.
the internet.
um, I could be wrong here, but it kind of feels like one of the things like in line with that whole like his muzzle is very round situation. It kind of feels like something they've made less noticeable over the years is like the his teeth. Like his teeth in a lot of like posters and stuff like that, he'll have like his mouth open being all like grr rah or whatever. But it feels like they've gotten like smaller or just like less noticeable on his face. I don't know. Maybe I'm like tell me if you guys see it too. I could just be like I don't know.
No, I think you're right. I think in certain iterations of him, and I do mean certain iterations because like the Mario movie has its design scheme that is very different from the games, so it can be counted, but it's counted separately because they do some things differently for his design in the movie that they don't necessarily always do in the game. Um, but like really tiny stuff. Uh, but huh, I lost my train of thought again.
Sorry.
No, you're good. That was me. Um, but no, yeah, I do think his teeth have been getting smaller and less noticeable, so his mouth can move. Like I think in certain iterations, like where he has to emote a little more, they make the teeth smaller. But if he doesn't have to move his mouth much, like in like a Mario Party, I guess, like his teeth are probably bigger.
Mm.
Yeah, I think the intent with his character design is for him to like read as the bad guy, but not like you're not supposed to hate him or like
Oh
be
yeah, yeah, like an
scared of
asshole
him.
bad guy.
Yeah, like he
Yeah.
can't. Oh, yo. Okay, so I'm looking at a timeline of like Bowser over the years, and there's a very big difference between Bowser in the Mario games and Bowser in Super Smash Bros. In Super Smash, he is way spikier. Like especially his hair, his horns are
Yeah.
bigger. Like I think his teeth are the same size, but like his horns are bigger, his hair is spikier. It looks like his claws are bigger.
Yeah.
Like
Because
just
that's how fighting games work in general. Like the proportions generally are different. Like in Street Fighter, all of the hands and feet are generally huge, proportionately.
no, like
Just that's how fighting games work.
no, his body looks proportionate to the rest of them. Like maybe his legs are a little longer, but like I'm just like looking at him compared to Mario Odyssey where like his he's wearing a hat first of all, so like you can't even see his spiky hair. His horns are super small, and like the Super Smash Bros version of him is just looks like he's ready to tear somebody's throat out. Like, oh god. Even comparing like the Super Smash Bros version to like the Mario Galaxy, still way more intimidating, way more spiky.
Do you have a link to this?
I'll put the picture in the chat.
Dang it.
Yeah.
I just
Sorry, Chris,
stumbled
we cut
across
you
an
off.
image of Bowser Jr., which I think brings up an interesting point that, like, if you look at Bowser Jr. compared to Bowser,
Mm-hmm.
he's more round, which gives the idea that like he's one less scary, but two, I feel like things meant to look younger tend to be rounder. Like, I mean, if you think of like a little baby, they're just
Mm-hmm.
round, squishy shapes, and whereas like if you have like a character that's more mature, grown up, then like shapes are more defined and like
Pointy chins, broad
yeah, harder
shoulders.
edges.
Yeah.
So like a shape can not only define like a character's vibe, but can also tell their age.
Oh
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. Um, it's like every section of a silhouette. Hmm, how do I want to say this? Because it's be weird, but I'll say it right. Um, Silhouettes start with a general structure, like we're saying. We're talking about shapes, like a
Mm.
general structure, like a triangle or something. You can go with triangles or rectangles or circles or whatever. And then like there's bigger, medium. There's big, medium, and small. There's the big, medium, and small hierarchy that is repeated throughout the silhouette to create variety and interest. So you'll have like a big circle. I'm looking at Bowser, so I'm only thinking about big circles. You got a big circle in the center, and then like the tiny triangle has the spikes all over it. And I'm looking at the 2018 version of Bowser that is on the timeline, the Smash version, I guess. Um, so I'm looking at that, and I'm just like, okay, big circle or big oval, I guess. Tiny triangles. Um, we've got tubes for the arms. The arms are always made of tubes. And well, I guess I've already described the rest, but feet, the claws are triangles. Everything's got tiny little. Everything's just like another branching off point from that big circle, and then they're just getting bigger, medium, or bigger and smaller, and changing up the sizes and shapes.
Um, the way you describe that reminds me of how we were talking about SpongeBob earlier, being like a square covered in circles, and Bowser is a circle covered in triangles.
Yes. Now we need
Except
a
for his face, which is all circles, except for the teeth.
The
we
teeth,
need
the hair,
a
and the horns.
triangle covered in squares now.
We
We need a
do.
triangle covered in squares. I know that exists. We got to find it.
That's gonna be a. I feel like that's
That's the
gonna be
new
like a
game.
blocky villain. Like it's
A
like
what?
the triangles suggest like villain, and the squares suggest like strong. So I'm just imagining like a really like fearsome like big villain just like getting ready to like pound somebody into the ground. Um
Yeah, my first
Uh,
thought was like Ganondorf, but I don't know if he necessarily reads triangle first. He's
mm,
more just like blocky man.
well, it's always like a pose thing with the human body. You know, it can always be represented like a triangle,
Yeah.
head and legs. Oh, hmm. I wanted to say like Cloud Strife, but that doesn't count. His body's like a long rectangle, obviously, if you want to hyper simplify it, and his hair is a bunch of tiny triangles all over it. And his sword is a big rectangle as well. Or, yeah, big rectangle.
Ooh. Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I'm done.
Sorry. I, um. So something I just thought of that like I wanted to add to the whole like silhouette um conversation that we're having here is about how like even characters that have similar silhouettes can like similar body shapes or does I want to talk about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles for a second because in some versions
Mm.
of the show they have very similar silhouettes, if not the exact same silhouette, but depending on body language, you can tell the turtles apart with like how they carry themselves or their fighting styles. And in other iterations of TMNT, you can really tell the turtles apart because of their silhouettes. Their silhouettes are different enough, and they lean into the characters' personalities that you can really distinguish them from each other.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And that's
Um,
important for clarity and storytelling.
Yeah. It's really that in and of itself could be its own video. Um, I'm sorry, Chris. What were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say that it like the kind of what you were saying with Ganondorf, where like the pose is what makes the like shape more than like the character design.
Mm-hmm.
Like with the turtles, it's like how they carry themselves. Like their body will naturally take on different poses, which then like will visually translate to a shape, which is then interpreted. It's not necessarily the character; it's just how they are like depicted in a certain scene.
True. Yeah, because then like you have your character design, which has its color or not color, which has its shapes and everything. And it's like a straight on view if you're like designing a character. But then, like you were saying, it's like if that character is angry, then their body language changes. And how does that body language change? They start making triangles more so with how they started moving their body? Can they start making other shapes and things that a human form can do to iterate sadness or tiredness or whatever? Yeah, then yeah, you're absolutely right. Just moving the silhouette around and manipulating it can wildly change the effect of the character.
Yeah.
Oh, something I was gonna say about the turtles. I almost forgot. Freaking there's so many iterations of TMNT. But something that can be its own video is just like or its own podcast episode or whatever. It, they're hmm. The turtles have been around for a while, and they have so many different iterations from like different TV shows, different comics, and different like book iterations and things like that. Um, and their shape language typically changes with every iteration. Sometimes some are taller, sometimes some are beefier, sometimes some are skinnier, lankier. Like you said in the beginning, they all kind of had the same silhouettes and everything. But it would be fun going through like what silhouettes, not just silhouettes, but what character designs work for what like purpose and why. And what I mean by that is just like in the comics, they generally have the same silhouette because comic books are meant to be made a little faster. Like they have to be consistent and quick. So of course they generally have the same body types in the comics and in cartoons because they have to be drawn a million times over. But in things like the most recent TMNT, they specifically actively go out of their way to make all shapes like asymmetrical and lumpy and
Oh
imperfect. Even with
yeah.
like the human characters, the humans also, it's just like eyes are never really on the same line. Everyone's just a little crooked, or just like has a slight oddity to their shape or form, and that's just a stylistic choice that is consistent throughout the entire world.
It would bring
Um,
me immense joy to do a podcast episode or just like I don't know, I just want to talk about that movie like several times. I'll make a podcast, I'll make a couple videos. I want to talk about that movie. That movie was awesome. Like
it was a lot
especially
of fun.
like visually speaking.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Chris, we should absolutely get you to check it out sometime. It's not like
Yeah.
a big franchise thing. It's like, I mean, obviously TMNT is a big franchise, but it's just like its own standalone film, and it does a lot of really fun things with character design, with color, backgrounds. It's a lot of fun stuff. Background, um, especially with like human designs, because there's yeah, never mind. I'm not gonna get into it, but like, yeah, great movie.
Yeah, I'm noting it
But
down as a podcast idea right now.
fantastic. And then on the other one, oh, hey, look, there's a notification. And on the other point, the TMNT from the Rise of the TMNT, they also have their own character like designs that are obviously unique to them, but like they're obviously cartoon characters. They have to be drawn a bunch of times over, so they have to have sleek, easy to replicate designs. But they still went out of their way to give them at least some size variety, to give them some like bulk variety. One of them's like really skinny, one of them's really bulky, one of them is kind of like in the middle. He's kind of lean and thin. One of them's more like lanky and skinny. Like that's these kind of things. These shape ideas, these silhouette ideas, they give a lot of character to who we're looking at, even though we've seen them a million times in different iterations. Um, there's still ways to change shapes to kind of give them all their unique personality and give them like new versions of themselves. So that's what's so fun about TMNT, because like every few years you can just do something else with the characters, and a completely different director and a completely different artist can come together and make a completely different thing, but it's still TMNT. Like that's always fun.
Yeet.
Sorry, I went on a turtle rant.
No, no, no. I was hoping that you would add to that because I know that you have like that was just something that like I noticed when I was like sitting here um thinking about like good examples of silhouettes and body language like specifically translating into body language. Um and I know that you have a lot more experience with like the TMNT franchise, so I was hoping that you could kind of take that and like jump and run with it for a little bit longer than I could, anyways.
Love turtles, man.
Yeah.
Always ready to talk about turtles. I mean the Teenage Mutant Ninja variety, but like I like normal turtles too.
Yeah,
Regular
I
turtles are
like
cool.
turtles.
Yeah.
Um, the turtles do make me think of, um, I guess like games or movies or anything really where there's like a group of characters that like share silhouettes. Um, one of my notes was uh, like something like Among Us or like Minecraft or Fall Guys,
Mm-hmm.
where like you have all these characters where I guess like there's games where each character has their own unique silhouette, but then there's games where all the characters are purposefully the same silhouette. Um, and I guess I just want to talk about like where and like why certain games lean in either direction. Um, and I think like especially in the case of Among Us, like the character silhouette for the Among Us characters, it's basically like their logo kind of like that, and like the Minecraft character silhouette, like you see those characters and immediately you know like what game that character belongs to.
Right.
Where like something like a Overwatch character um, it's more so like there's more importance placed on like distinguishing the characters apart in the game rather than the brand identity, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
I mean, I definitely think that like a lot of the importance around silhouettes comes from like clarity in terms of like how easy it is to recognize characters as individuals, but also like characters in a franchise. Um, but also consistency, like making sure that the characters the silhouettes look like they belong to each other, even if they are different characters. They still look, um, like I said, consistent.
Hmm. I think this is a couple different conversations, maybe. Um, Complexity versus simplicity is one where like complex silhouettes can obviously still be strong, like you said, Overwatch, that example, where all of the characters have very specific designs, very specific shapes, and you can tell them all apart very easily because that was the point of that kind of character lineup. That's the point of that kind of game. It's supposed to be easy to tell who you're looking at a glance from the silhouette, from their shape, from the way they move, all those things. But then you've got Among Us, where all, like you said, all the characters, their base forms are all exactly the same, and then you get to have a lot of fun with changing costumes and stuff. But I think that is, um, I think that there's a strength to both, and like I guess that's obvious because like I said, neither one is bad. Simplicity lends itself more towards projects, like I said, can maybe like replicated. I think I'm thinking about when I was talking about animation, like you have to draw the characters over and over again, so they have to have like a sleek design, something that's easy to replicate, something that you can draw with simple shapes that has a canon that you can keep going back to over and over again. So you can draw it from different angles and everything. Um, but the simpler the characters, the easier they are to, I guess, like you said, brand recognition and brand identity and things like that. It's so much easier to put like a Hello Kitty on something, which is incredibly simple. Very simple, like not even her whole body, just like the Hello Kitty head, and like you know exactly who that is. You get the shape, you know what you're looking at, what brand that is. It's done. But you couldn't do that as easily with something a little more complex. I've always felt like Transformers, like Autobots and Decepticons, like their logo was a little busy. Like you can read it, you know what you're looking at. They are overall just rectangles; they're not hard. But when I was little, I thought they were really busy because of the tiny little bits inside. I didn't understand what I was looking at. But those tiny bits made the definition. Like they turned that little rectangle into the design, the logo that is
Mm.
iconic. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, I brought that up. Like, I don't think there's like a good or a bad way to do like uh character design per se. Like one of them's not better than the other, but there's just like a different intent there where like sometimes like you do different silhouettes within a single IP to
Mm-hmm.
like
mm,
differentiate them, or you do like the same silhouette for all characters in an IP in order to like emphasize that brand and like make that IP stand out from other IPs.
mm, yeah, yeah,
Just a
yeah.
little interesting thought.
I definitely think there's a lot of merit to that. I think it was something our professors would tell us, that like intent is what separates a professional from an amateur. Because like it simply because art can be so subjective. I remember like my professors making a point to say like because art is so subjective. It doesn't become about whether it looks pretty or whether it looks good or bad. It becomes about like what the artist was trying to accomplish. um and I guess how well the, I don't know, audience interpretation is also like an entire other conversation, but that's, yeah.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. But if the artist is trying to paint a tree and it doesn't look like a tree,
Yeah,
then something wasn't done correctly.
yeah,
It's obviously it becomes a lot more complex when you're like painting something that is meant to be abstract. And then, like, well, glean what you can from this.
right.
Yeah.
Um,
Um, I'm curious if you guys have any examples of like character designs that you don't like for their
hmm.
silhouette. Um,
Hmm.
I have I have something that might be contentious.
Okay.
Um, and it's very contextual. So, I've always thought that specifically when it comes to Smash, I've always been, I guess, underwhelmed with the visual representation of like the Fire Emblem characters.
Hmm.
Es- Especially like in contrast and when put into the same environment as some of the characters that have more of the exaggerated silhouettes.
Hmm.
I mean, I think they're like, I mean, the costumes and everything is, uh, obviously great, but like, I guess it maybe that's more so a problem with like blending a more realistic character in a stylized world,
Hmm.
because like you can't like exaggerate their proportions like you can a cartoon character.
Do you have an example image that we can look at of all the characters next to each other?
Yes.
Well, maybe not all characters, but like that character and some other characters you think look out of place. Because I agree with you. I think I think some silhouettes have a hard time with others, but I wonder if that's because they don't belong in the world and they're jarring, or like, or if it's more so that like I guess the contrast is too much. It's like I might have just said the same thing. Um, like their silhouettes are just so drastically different from like again Bowser or Meta Knight,
Yeah.
um, that it's just like they're clashing with each other. Like it's hard to kind of see them together and think, oh, they belong together. But I don't know. I think I see where you're coming from.
Yeah, it's kind of like these um characters because they're more realistic, more realistically proportioned, and um their character designs are like inherently more complex. Like when put into the context of like a fast fighting game with
Yeah.
these characters with like simple shapes, um it's a little jarring.
I see where you're coming from. It's definitely odd to have like a Fire Emblem character next to, say, Kirby. Literally just circles, just a whole bunch of pink circles. Um,
Meta Knight's usually Meta Knight and Kirby are usually with humans. I think it's like weird to have like Lucas next to Ike.
mm,
You know what I mean? This is like
Yeah.
big dude with sword and armor, and then literal child with a massive head the size of his body. Like,
yeah. Um, I think it's the same issue that people had with seeing Mario in New Donk City.
oh yeah, that was
Yeah.
odd.
Yeah. Um. Uh.
It's almost
I.
like uncanny.
Yeah. I don't. What's it called? I don't play the Fire Emblem games. Like I've never gotten into them, and I don't want to like. I don't know. I feel bad bashing on them because I don't know the characters or their like designs or anything like enough to I don't know. I don't want to trash talk them or anything. I'm specifically looking at like Fire Emblem like character designs right now just to get a feel for like what is the norm for that. And there does seem to be a decent variety within the games themselves. I'm pretty sure that the Fire Emblem characters that are in the Smash games are specifically the player characters, which let's be honest here, player insert characters are usually a little on the bland side unless you have like options to customize them.
Yeah, uh, me being totally clueless as well about the Fire Emblem world, I did not realize, like, just looking at, like, Googling Fire Emblem characters, I wish they had some of these, like,
Right?
more, like, cool silhouettes as, like, playable characters in Smash. They look sick.
Yeah, no, like between like the silhouettes in terms of like their body languages, they're very like expressive, and like the clothing and everything. And this is what I think is like good character design and silhouettes. Just by looking at them, I can get a good idea of like what their personality is and who they are in the story.
The game's design sense is insane.
Oh my god.
I've never really taken the time to look at the original art style for Fire Emblem. That's really good.
Yeah. So maybe my beef is just the characters they chose for Smash.
Yeah, maybe, yeah, yeah.
Smash in general had its work cut out for it, trying to make all of the characters from all of the franchises look like they kind of belong together. So I think it's just that product, like that game. It's just a project that is bound to have its issues. I mean, do you feel the same way about like All Stars, Nickelodeon All Stars, or PlayStation All Stars? What was it? The Nickelodeon game that came out that had all the
Yeah.
characters in it, and then the Warner Brothers one that came out that we played together
Um,
with Bugs Bunny and Superman and Ben.
I know you and I played that one because
Yeah.
I had a lot of fun with Bugs Bunny.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, I mean, a lot of the characters that they chose for that do have, like, really bold silhouettes for the most part. I'm trying to think of
Mm-hmm.
any, like, exceptions, but, um, yeah, I probably a little bit less so with that game, but and like it's more noticeable with Smash, probably because I think they like tried to marry the styles a little bit more in the All Star Brawl game than they did in Smash.
Mm-hmm.
Which might be like it might not even be like a character design issue. It might be like a licensing issue. Like they probably couldn't just like cartoonize like just like from an IP standpoint. But I don't know. That's another conversation.
It was called Multiverses, by the way. I
That's what
forgot the
it
name of the game.
was.
Multiverses.
Oh, multiverses. I was looking at All
Multiverse.
Stars.
You're looking at All Stars. Okay. We were on a completely different. I was on a different game. I was trying to figure out what Multiverses was called. So it is called Nickelodeon All Stars. The other one.
Yeah.
Cool.
Oh, okay. I'm googling now. I guess the roster works better for this because like a lot of the Looney Tunes, a lot of the Nickelodeon characters will kind of work well enough together. I mean, they all have like very different art styles, but somehow they made it cohesive enough to like put them all together. So that's cool. Like I don't think Danny Phantom looks that weird standing next to SpongeBob. Lincoln Loud's a little odd standing next to Leonardo, but you know, I don't know.
Yeah.
All Star Brawl. I played these games. Well, no, I didn't play Nickelodeon. I did not play that game. Oh, silhouettes that I don't like. I don't think I have one.
Yeah.
I'm usually appreciating silhouettes that I do like. That I genuinely cannot think of a single time I've pointed out a silhouette that I don't like. So it would really take me some time to think about that. I don't know what to. I don't know what to choose for. But if
Yeah.
I
Or
ever
maybe,
come up with one, let you know.
yeah, it might be, yeah, it's harder to come up with like a quote unquote bad one. Or
Maybe
maybe the
Rayman.
better, yeah. Wait, what's that? Rayman?
Maybe Rayman. Rayman. Are you familiar with Rayman, the video game series? He
The
doesn't have any
guy.
arms and legs.
Hmm.
He's a character with the floating head, no neck, body, floating
Oh,
arms and
that
legs, or floating
yeah.
hands and feet.
Yeah, I mean, I
Eh.
guess that kind of makes the silhouette confusing.
Like, and that's not even to say like I don't like his design because I fucking love his design. I think he's so cool. But yeah, I guess I could say I don't like his silhouette.
Yeah.
I love Rayman, dude. It's so sick.
Yeah, I don't think guys in the same vein of as Marshaun, like I don't think that there's a specific sorry. ADHD. I was looking at my notes and I got distracted for a second. Um yeah, I don't think there's a specific silhouette that I don't like. Yeah. Same vein, like if I see something I don't like someday, maybe I'll I'll bring attention to it. Um yeah, I guess for me like the defining thing about silhouettes is that I know a good one when I see it. Um it's not so much that I've seen a bad one, but I when I see a good one, I know it. Like I can see it and I can go, "Yeah, that's a really great silhouette."
Because it's harmonious. It
Exactly.
creates
Yeah.
it creates appeal. You want to look at it, and like I said, it's harmonious. It works. But when it
Yes.
doesn't work, if it's off balance or if something is just not in the right place and it kind of throws everything else off, you're like, yeah, no, that's the bad one.
Yeah, yeah. It's like it's when I look at something and I go, "Oh yeah, like I can understand this. I can see it. It's very clear." Like I was saying earlier, it's all about like clarity. So like, "Oh yeah, this silhouette here, very clear to me. I can completely understand what's going on." Um Otherwise it's just like, "All right, that's is what it is, I guess."
Yeah, I guess on the note of like um, whether or not like a silhouette is memorable is probably the most important thing, and maybe that's why it's hard to come up with like bad examples because usually the characters that you don't you aren't drawn to or like the characters that you don't remember are usually the ones that like might not have the strongest silhouette or like the best read.
I found some character designs I think are professionally done, so I'm not like ragging on a student or anything. But I don't think I love, but they're not particularly bad.
Yeah.
Uh,
Like I said, I think it's not so much a part of like something being. I mean, I could totally be wrong here. Like maybe it's not about like a silhouette being bad as much as a silhouette being underwhelming, I guess.
Yeah, or like not
yeah.
serving the character.
Yeah.
hmm
Not like doing the character justice.
Like you said, memorability. Yeah, it's a memorable silhouette.
Yeah.
I don't remember it. It's probably trash.
Yeah, and it's kind of like a sliding scale too, because like something like a character silhouette that like is memorable, but like doesn't serve the character could still be good because if it's memorable, then it's good. But like ideally, you would have both. You would have something that's memorable and something that serves the character.
Yeah, yeah, for definitely agree there. Um
There's another question right there. Is there an idea of a character that is well designed but does not fit their function properly? Like great character design, but this you don't look like you belong in this world, or like you don't look like you you're serving the purpose that you or you serve the purpose that you look like you were designed for.
Ooh, I'm sure there are examples of that, but I can't think of one off the top of my head where like, oh, actually, yes, I can. Hmm.
Wondering if you're thinking of the same one I'm thinking.
I doubt it. But I'm curious, what are you thinking of?
I was thinking about Wreck-It Ralph, which was done intentionally. Where like the main character of Wreck-It Ralph, Ralph is obviously the hero of the story. He's the protagonist, but he's the antagonist of his game. So he was designed to look like a bad guy, but he doesn't look like such a bad guy that we, as the audience, the meta audience, not the audience of his game, don't hate him. He's got spiky hair and he's got the big angry hands. What do you do with big hands in like a video game sense? You usually throw big punches. Donkey Kong, like Rayman, whose only fists wind up throw fist. Like um, you emphasize the hands because usually they're meant to be thrown. Um, nope, nope. I'm not gonna lose my train of thought. I swear. Uh,
You were talking about Wreck-It Ralph and his design.
that's it. Thank you. Yeah. So Ralph, it was designed to look like the bad guy of an in-universe game. So he has the typical design of a square, spiky because he's got again the spiky hair and he's got a big square body and big hands. But in our universe, as the audience, he's still the hero of the game, so he can't look like too much of a bad guy. So he's got the rounded edges. His hands and fingers are big and round, and kind of they look like big giant marshmallows sometimes. Like he's supposed to be been imposing, which I guess he is from like Vanellope's point of view, like her literal height point of view. Like if we look up at him, um, then he's pretty big and imposing and scary. But from the camera's point of view, from the movie, he's actually kind of cuddly. Like he's kind of cute. Like so, I think that's interesting. So like he's designed very well and he functions very well, but technically, because he was designed to be a bad guy, it doesn't hit that function because he doesn't look like a bad guy for us. I don't know. This is interesting.
Yeah,
Maybe
that
he's just a
one
bad guy
is
for
like
kids.
multi-layered, kind of like Bowser.
Yeah.
Like, where
Oh
it's
yeah,
like
absolutely.
good guy but bad guy, or bad guy that's good guy presenting.
I guess that presenting. I think that's I think that's what's kind of cool about the visual problem of making a bad guy, but for like a children's television show or for like something for like younger people. Like younger people are supposed to enjoy, but it's not exclusively for them. Like older people are also supposed to believe in, and like the suspension of disbelief has to be there. So I guess that's pretty typical. I feel like back in the old days, like they used to make villains like Don Bluth and like old '90s and '80s animated films that were just like the bad guy was like really terrifying, and
Yeah.
then they've since got it back.
Yeah, well, there was
In
such
certain
a
movies.
contrast with like the black and white storytelling that there was an outcry for nuance. People wanted nuance in their storytelling, and we've gotten that for the most part. To the point where now people are actually missing, like, it's just like, oh, can we please have both now? We want some stories to have nuance, but can we also just have our classic evil and we love it villains? Like, um, yeah, but yeah, some those the old villains are very very scary in certain aspects. I know that some of them really scared me as a kid.
I was definitely terrified by some. There's a whole scene in Dogs on All Dogs Go to Heaven where like the main character almost gets swallowed by an alligator. That messed me up when I was little, but
Yeah,
I love that movie.
the climax of Sleeping Beauty, where the enchantress turns into a actually a lot of that movie scared me as a child. Like the scene where Aurora essentially gets hypnotized and like pricks her finger. The scene where the prince is trying to save her and the Maleficent, that's her name. She turns into a dragon and fights. Like I genuinely barely remember that movie because so much of it terrified me as a kid.
I've not
Yeah,
seen this movie.
I'd be
you're
interested to
getting
rewatch it because it's been so long since I've seen it, and I've just also haven't seen certain parts of it because I was very weak-willed.
Oh, that's okay. Chris was terrified of Beetlejuice.
I
yes,
also haven't seen all of Beetlejuice.
yes. Well, that was. I don't know if that's like a uh, shapes thing per se, other than or like or just like the idea of the eyeballs and the mouth
No,
situation.
I'm just used to
Nah,
it.
it'd be like that. I got you. Um, I
um,
I think.
this.
Ooh,
Oh,
sorry.
sorry, again.
I just had it. I think I have an example of like good designs, but maybe like not the best execution. What were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say the conversation of like older villains, being terrifying. It was giving me flashbacks to. I don't know if you've ever played, uh, some of the earlier Crash Bandicoot games, but there's this character called Tiny, Tiny
Tiny
Tiger.
Tiger.
Yeah,
Uh,
and I was low key terrified of him, on the PS1, partially because they didn't have enough polygons to make him like rounded.
yeah,
Um,
he was
but
terrified.
yeah, if you Google like
Oh my god, yeah, I
Tiny Tiger,
remember
PS1 Tiny
him.
Tiger. Yeah,
yeah,
that
like
scared me too when I was little.
the newer versions of him look at least a little bit nice, like 1% nice. The old version looks terrifying,
Yeah.
I
but that's because
would
it's
literally
entirely
see this in my
triangles.
nightmares. Like he was absolutely scary. Like I remember getting pings of anxiety when I was like 6 or 5 playing Crash Bandicoot because I had the first 3 on the PS1.
Mm,
And yeah, he's just a big mouth and teeth and like these long sharp fingers. I'm just like, please don't jump on me with your trident, which
yeah,
was absolutely a thing he did.
yeah, like
Yeah.
that is just like a pure 100% triangle right there.
Yeah, that's just triangles.
Partially because they could only render a character with, you know, 100 triangles, but
100 triangles, exactly.
His new design is definitely approachable. It has those rounder edges and the cheekbones and in the jaw and like the bottom jaw. I guess that's a good thing that we could do. We'd like talk about 2 of them for a second, like how they fixed it from like a Trash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy, where they completely redesigned all the characters, and well, not completely redesigned, but they amped them up. You know what I mean? Like they gave them the HD treatment.
yeah.
And Tiny Tiger has a lot more rounded edges in his design now. What a surprise! um, his spikes all have rounded edges to them. His ears aren't as pointy as they used to be. His eyebrows are rectangles; they're not even triangles anymore.
His mouth isn't a
Uh,
black void anymore.
his mouth isn't a black void.
Like
Um,
that's what's really getting me. It's like the crazy eyes and eyebrows that look like they were scribbled on furiously by an angry child, and then the void of his mouth.
yeah, the black void is really, really bad.
It's not great.
Like I
Oh.
understand that he's supposed to be like mean, but like that's like unappealing.
But how did they fix that in the new one though? They made his nose blue. They rounded it
Um,
up a little bit, and then they took that same blue and like put it in his in other parts of the character design, in his like little his straps on his arms and stuff. So his nose has a bit of a purpose. It matches with other things on his character design. It's rounder. There's no just straight black on this character design anymore, which is typically a no-no, is what I was taught. But I mean, other people find ways to make things work. It depends on how
yeah,
you use it or what the medium is, I guess.
yeah. His new silhouette, like the curves on the spikes on his shoulders, it's
Mm-hmm.
slight, but it's not like death triangle anymore.
Yeah.
You
Um,
know what they did keep though? You know what they did keep? Look at his claws. If you have a good version of the like the a picture of the new version of the claws, they
Oh
did keep his
yeah.
long, spindly fingers. Like they extended the nails to make the claws super long, but they don't look as like they look scary, but they don't look as terrifying as like his needle fingers from the first game.
well,
Yeah.
yeah, that was that's partially because his claws in the first game are they're not really claws; they're just his fingers that are claw
Exactly.
shaped.
Oh man.
He used to say some funny stuff. I think I'm trying to remember, but I remember he used to have some funny lines. Like he only spoke in the third person. If I remember, he was like tiny, tiny. I don't know. I thought he was funny, but I also thought he was terrifying. It depended on which game and which boss fight I was doing.
Yeah.
Oh, tiny. He's
I
so
find
scary.
his in the pictures at the middle one is just so different. The Clash of, or was it Crash of the Titans? Like,
Yeah.
it's just like not even the same character.
Yeah, it just looks like a completely different. What the hell?
That is
It's a
Tony
cat.
Tiger.
That's Tony the Tiger.
That
Yeah,
is
Tiny
not
Tiger
Tiny.
has always looked like a giant fox. Like he looks like a dog more so than he looks like a cat.
Yeah.
And then in that one, they made him look like a cat, and he's just wrong. When I was talking about the fingers earlier, I was talking about this image right here.
Yeah.
They
That's
kept his long fingies.
metal tips. Maybe they're not metal. Maybe they're actually his nails. Oh yeah, they are.
Now, what's the first word that comes to mind when you guys, when you see something like
Fear? Was that not established?
this? That is
Yeah, that
terrifying.
nightmarish.
It's not great.
I ran away from that when I was 5 years old. The PlayStation 1.
Are you
The
kidding?
sticky ass controller.
I'd run away from that now. If I see that coming at me in a dark alley, I'm booking it.
That's
None of that,
understandable.
thank you.
The proper response, yeah.
Genuine fear.
You know what I'm realizing? Like
What?
older
Yes.
games, like because of their resolution, just like were probably inherently more scary.
Oh yeah, that's absolutely a conversation that's been thrown around a million times over. Things like games, as you know, games have been getting like redesigns and like remakes and stuff like that. Especially like horror games, like Resident Evil just got a remake, or Resident Evil 4 just got a remake. Um, and Silent Hill is supposed to get a remake, if I'm not mistaken. But a lot of people will say that like the PS1 era horror games are perfect because you could only see about as much. Like you could tell that the developers were doing the best they could with what they had, but there's
Mhm.
also so much, especially in Silent Hill. There's so much show don't tell. There is so much paranoia. There's so much fog
Yeah.
that has to layer everything. But like with the limitations created such an interesting environment that is so difficult to recreate in video games now because we have so many tools to do so many things. But that those limitations back then made some crazy stuff. um, Unintentionally horrifying, but also like completely intentionally horrifying. In the case of like Silent Hill and Resident Evil and games like that, like they were made scary and done very well with the tools that they had.
Oh yeah,
But I'm
no.
sure there's like a subreddit. Sorry, I'm sure that there's like a subreddit that's like unintentionally terrifying, like early games. Like I want to try and find that.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely a good like podcast idea because like it's not just about like the it's about like the limitations of old technology, but also the lack of limitations in like ratings and stuff like that. I don't think there was much of a screening going on to see like just how terrifying some of this stuff was because like I feel like adults can definitely be a lot more like lax when it comes to certain topics, especially when it comes to like scary things, and not always thinking through how it might be perceived, especially by young brains. um, and obviously like not trying to cause harm on purpose, but I think that was definitely a bit of a that like oh the video games are causing violence and that whole annoying it's
Can we take a second to remember the pink elephants? What was
the
it,
pink
Dumbo?
elephants.
I mean, obviously that's not a video game example, but that's a scene that terrified a lot of people as children and as adults. That was
Yeah.
made for children, but it
Yeah.
was unintentionally incredibly terrifying.
Yeah. Yeah. Cuz that's the other thing like sometimes creators working on like the stories in the movies, I feel like they spend so much time with it that they kind of become desensitized to certain parts and don't realize how weird certain things are. Like you said, like that wasn't meant to be scary, but it was. Like I think they just were looking at that for way too long and were just like, yeah, this is fine.
Yeah, for sure. We get that all the time working on stuff. Uh, like one of the biggest lessons I've learned as like a game designer is to always trust like a playtester's opinion above your own, because your perception as like the person that's making it is going to be completely different than the people that are going to receive it.
Yeah. And I think
Yeah.
in that same vein, I think that's why it's so important to like get critiques and get outside opinion on your work, because you've been staring at it for God knows how long. Like you're going to have a very different perception of the piece than your audience, and you need to understand, you need to make sure that your audience is picking up what you're putting down, that they're understanding what you're trying to convey.
At least the important bits.
Yeah.
They don't have to understand every little thing about it.
Right,
But
yeah,
at least the main menus. Look, the main menu. Sorry, I'm looking at video game stuff. At least the main point.
Yes, the main menus of life.
Exactly. I was looking for unintentionally terrifying PS1 things, and I'm now on the PlayStation 1 subject.
Oh, you're good, you're good. What's it called? I also had a, oh jeez. My notes, oh god. If you guys don't mind backtracking for a second, I do have an example of something that, something I believe, like, the designs were good, but the execution not so much.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if you guys have heard of, the movie. It's called Home, and it was made by DreamWorks.
Yeah, I know of it. I haven't seen it.
It's about the little purple alien dude.
Oh, yeah.
The main female lead, she's voiced
It's
by
Rihanna.
Rihanna. Yeah, it's Rihanna. Oh, and the purple alien dude is voiced by Sheldon from Big Bang Theory.
We don't know his name.
Oh,
I do not know his name. He is
yeah,
Sheldon from Big Bang Theory.
I forgot this movie was a thing.
Yeah, so something that I find really, like, in a lot of ways that movie didn't do well, largely because the story was just people, it wasn't resonating with a lot of people, and like a lot of the humor was just like not, it just wasn't doing well with audiences. But the designs, like the designs of the aliens in this movie are so clear. They're so clear, and they work so well for like the story and what they were trying to express. Like all of the purple alien, his creatures, they're called the Boov. Very good name for them. It's got 2 O's, and it works very well with like how round everything they have is. Like it's all based on bubbles. Everything they have is circles. It's all round and soft. Meanwhile, the antagonist of the story, I mean, nuance aside, the antagonist of the story, the Gorg, very hard letters, very short, sweet, to the point. Both names are short, sweet, to the point. But the Gorg are just triangles, and they are like black and this neon green, and they just contrast each other so well. And it's just like, it's so simple, but they do so well with it, and it's such a shame. Like the visuals, I like them. Like I like the way that they work off of each other in terms of the story, and I like the way that they look in the movie. It's just such a shame that like it kind of goes to a movie that just needed a little more work on the writing, like maybe a lot of work. I don't know. It's just,
yeah, I'm just looking at images. Yeah, the designs are like the silhouettes are really good.
Right.
Like the spikes on the shoulders of the Gorg dudes. Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
that guy looks
so
like
cool.
he can beat you up.
Oh yeah. The
worse.
Gorg.
Actually, a lot worse.
Yeah, the Gorg are very like with the little skulls and everything too, and like all the
They're starships. Interesting. They came back to the star shape.
Yeah, it's a star shape. But yeah, it's like everything, like the Gorgs, all of their technology is very like triangular. It's all like very black, like I said, outlined with this really bright neon green. It's just like
orange highlights. Or orange accents.
Yeah, with the orange accents, which works well again with like the storytelling later, because it comes across as like a harsher accent color in terms of like looking in the context of like the Gorg themselves, but then spoilers if anyone cares. At the end of the movie, when the Gorg comes out of his little death machine suit thing, he's just like this cute little starfish guy, and he's not like a harsh orange. He is a very soft orange, and he is squishy and, dare I say, cute, and it works. It works.
In my squishy, and he will be mine.
Yeah, exactly. He'd be squishy, and he will be mine. So
Yeah.
that's a movie that I feel like had really good like design elements. It just like the execution of the story, and as a whole, just kind of made the whole thing suffer, which is unfortunate. Ugh.
Yeah, the starfish guy reminds me of Patrick.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Patrick.
I was thinking of Zurg from Toy Story.
Oh yeah, I can see Zurg vibes with him.
A Zurg crossed with a starfish, I guess.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Do you guys have any more topics or comments you would like to make about silhouettes in general before we move on to the creative spotlight? I don't mean to be rushing things along. I'm just trying to make sure we're staying on track.
No, I'm
Yeah.
pretty good.
I think I went over all the things.
Yeah, this was your topic, so I want to make sure that we're covering the bases that you wanted to touch on.
Yeah, I guess maybe just like a quick
Yeah.
summary of that, like, character. I guess maybe a takeaway that someone could get from this is like the intention behind a character's shape is what's important, and there's a lot of different lenses you could take at character shapes and silhouettes, but as long as you're thinking about it, I think that's the key.
Yeah. Like, as long as you're staying, like, conscientious of it, like, as long as you're trying to...
Designing with intention.
Yeah, designing with intention.
Decisions, creative work is a bunch of different decisions that have to be made. Every individual one isn't always super important, but at the end of the day, it's a process. It's a bunch of different decisions made until the end goal is reached. So the more conscious, the more mindful you are of each step, the clearer your intentions are, the stronger your designs will
Yeah.
be. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, the clarity, the recognizability, yeah. Making sure
So
that...
creative spot.
Huh?
I was just said so creative spotlight.
Yeah, so creative spotlights. What do y'all got?
Nothing.
Cool.
I don't have anything. I've never got around to. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I have two. I will let you have one of them.
Okay.
I will. Don't worry. It's one that I know you know. I'll message you about it. You can. I know you can talk about this, and it's topical.
What's that?
While I get that set up, Chris, would you like to go first with your spotlight?
Sure. I was trying to think of another one that was topical, but I don't think I have one. So I'll just go with the one that came to mind first, which was so there's a YouTube channel by a guy named Kyle Banks. He is an indie game developer who is making a game called Farewell North. and I just find his videos very nice and useful and relatable
You
as someone that makes games.
Ooh. Ooh, Farewell North looks really pretty. Ooh.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it is topical in the sense that like one of the game's mechanics is that you're in this like black and white world and it's mostly silhouettes. Um,
Ooh.
and there's monsters in the game that are like these spiky hands, creepy.
Oh, Marshaun and I were playing a silhouette kind of game recently. Oh shoot, what was it called? We were playing like a little deer and a fox that got separated from our families in a blizzard, and we were trying to trek through the snow to find them. We didn't finish the game
Oh,
yet.
Blanc.
What?
Oh, Blanc.
Blanc! Yes! Yeah, silhouette
Blanc.
games.
Blanc. It means
Blanc.
white in French, I believe.
Yeah.
Oh, that looks so
Yay.
cute.
Very cute. Um, but yeah, Farewell North looks very cool. I would love to check this out.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
haven't played it, but from what I've seen, it looks really cool. And he also makes just really quality videos.
And what was his name again?
Kyle Banks.
Kyle
Oh, thank you.
Banks. Okay. Just want to make sure that I put the links in the description properly.
Yeah, I tagged it in the chat.
Perfect. Oh, thank you so much.
Ooh, excuse me.
Perfect.
So what do you have, Callie?
Okay. So, uh, so what I was gonna talk about is topical in the sense of it being like very silhouette heavy. It's this music video, years old. It's called Bad Apple. It's based around the video game Toho. I know nothing about the game. I think it's like a bullet hell and stuff with a bunch of anime girls doing, I don't know what their part in the story is. I have no idea. But the music video, the song is really cool, and the music video is just all silhouettes. It's black and white, and I find that like really cool for a couple of reasons. Like one, like it was just really cool to see when I was a kid. It was I don't know, like the most, I don't want to say it was the most artistic thing I had seen at that point, but it was just very different from like the other AMVs I was seeing at the time, because like I said, it was all black and white, and the transitions were always handled very seamlessly. It was very cool. Um, but in the spirit of silhouette specifically, the reason why I chose this video, I mean obviously like it's all about silhouettes with like the characters being completely silhouettes the entire time, but being somebody who doesn't know Toho, the characters, the story, anything about it, all I knew of the franchise was this video and the silhouettes of these characters. Flash forward to like years later, I'm talking like 10 years later, I am at a convention and I see someone in a costume that I recognize because all of the silhouettes, or like most of the silhouettes in this video, are like very specific. Like, yeah, they're all like anime girls, whatever, but they all have accessories that make them very unique. And this one cosplayer I recognized instantly because they had the very unique accessories that went along with this character. And I asked them, I was just like, hey, is that Toho? And they're like, yeah, you like it? And I was just like, it's recognizable. It's very recognizable. So yeah, the power of silhouettes right there for you. And yeah, I don't know. It's just a fun music video. I like the song. I'll put a link in the description. Enjoy it.
Cool. Yeah, I'm just clicking through it, and yeah, those are some nice silhouettes.
Yeah, very, very fun. For anybody who's interested, I do not know this character's name. I'm very sorry. It's the I have seen what she looks like. She's got like a little red dress. But the iconic part about her is like she's got like these wing thingies, but they're not wings. They're like these like stick thingies coming out of her back, and they have like chandelier like gems coming down. It's very pretty. The cosplayer did a very good job on like that part specifically. They dangled and swung as they walked around, and they managed to not break it by the end of the weekend, so that's great. um, yeah, uh, yeah. So, so just a little spotlight on that. Marshaun, do you have something you would like to talk about? If you do not, that is a-okay.
Uh, well, it's not very big. I could go a little in depth about it, but I don't think I should. I think you should just go check out the channel. Um, well, I guess I could talk about 1000 because 1000 is an artist on YouTube that I really like. I haven't watched. I'm not up to date on his videos right now, but I was watching them a bit over the course of the last like 3 years, and I just really like his energy. He's a mural artist who likes to just. I just like his channel because he's got good vibes. Like he's just he. It seems like he makes basically all his music, and like every video there's like a sponsorship ad for I think Audible or something, and like it's probably not Audible. Those are like Amazon or something. But he's been sponsored by the same people, and like every video he always does like a skit. He writes out or does like a little skit or like makes it a completely original song or like does. It's just he brings so much energy and fun and life to like every aspect of his video making, not just like the really cool and fun over the top art he makes, but like also the video making process. And like watching his videos, even though his work doesn't necessarily inspire mine in a lot of ways, uh, because his style is so different. I just like his thirst for life and his interest in making new things and growing as an artist. And he just bought like his new art studio, and that was pretty sick to watch. It's just it always seems like he's just got good energy and a good sense of humor. So I like him. 1000, 1000 is good. Put the link in the general chat.
Yeah. I'll put a link in the description for anyone who's interested. Yeah, I've watched a couple of 1000's videos. You showed me them. They're really nice. He's got a really good energy about him.
This community seems very positive, very helpful, very just good, chill people. That's what I like on YouTube. Chill people.
Cool. Thanks for the recommendation.
Yeah. Check him out. Listen to his music.
Yeah. Alrighty. I think that covers about everything. Does anybody have any closing statements or just last minute things you wanna bring up or mention?
Shapes are cool. That's it.
Shapes are very cool.
They're pretty cool.
That's all.
Goes in the square hole.
Shut up.
Never.
What is the sign off? How do we sign off? We...
Thanks for tuning in. I swear I'm working on the Bee and Puppet Cat video. That should come out next. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.